I'm Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth, and in this video I'm going to be talking to you about your ex is ignoring you because they're secretly confused about how they feel. So, yes, there are situations where exes are confused and they don't know how or what to do yet because they're confused within themselves. Now, of course, every situation is different and every breakup is different. And some of you are getting ignored just because maybe your ex is being cruel to you and they don't want to talk to you. Maybe you are pressuring them. But there are a lot of times where exes actually do ignore you or they take a long time to reply because they know that things will come with that. Okay? There are consequences to responding with you and engaging with you. Okay? A lot of times, our feelings about somebody in a relationship can be confused. We can go back and forth on things, thinking about the pros and the cons, and kind of like where we see ourselves with that person in our life. What kind of role do we want them to play in our life? What kind of role do we want to play in their life? Because it takes a lot of emotional maturity to be showing up in somebody else's life. And sometimes people just don't have that capacity. Now, there are people that are extreme, like narcissists and things like that, but that's a rare situation, right? Narcissism is less than 10% of the population. But many people are in situations where their ex has been struggling with how they feel, and they don't know what to do. And so they struggle with ending the relationship. But when you pressure them, when you beg, when you plead, when you show up at their house and do handwritten letters, it kind of makes them more entrenched in their decision. So the people that don't beg and plead and try and manipulate, like clean slate messages and things like that, they're often going to see their ex change their mind sooner because obviously there are consequences to our actions. Right? That's just the reality. There are consequences to everything, okay? And that's good and bad. Consequence isn't necessarily a bad thing. From a behavioral analyst standpoint, a consequence is just the reaction to something, right? Good or bad. So there are consequences to you pressuring your ex, begging, pleading, and then, backing off, feeling pressured, and then setting up walls and boundaries. But if you don't pressure them, you don't beg, you're able to leave them alone right away, it often speeds up the process of them missing you. But a lot of times, exes, especially avoidance, those with an avoidant attachment style, they kind of shut down when they feel pressured. And they don't even see it like they're ignoring you, believe it or not. I know it's like, what? How do they not see that? Well, because they're so confused and they're just feeling kind of like stuck, that when they don't reply, they're not thinking, oh, they think I'm ignoring them. A lot of times they're thinking, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I'm just not going to respond yet. So there are challenges, of course, with dating an avoidant, just like there are challenges with dating an anxious person. Okay, so whether or not you decide to do that is totally up to you. But I've got a really good email coaching today that's going to show a lot of what I explain and what I'm talking about today. Because a lot of times your ex or the person you're interested or maybe talking to, dating, whatever it may be, they are confused. And it's not just that they don't care about you, they're cold, they don't ever want to talk to you again. They are genuinely, authentically confused and struggling. Now, this is especially if you see somebody with more like a fearful avoidant attachment style. And we don't get into a lot of that on the channel, going into the differences between fearful and dismissive avoidance. But yes, some avoidants tend to be a bit more fearful, okay? So, let me get into this. This is a couple in their early 30s, and they dated for about a year and a half. They said, "Hi, Craig. Thanks again for everything you guys do. I've been listening to your videos every day for a few months now, and I'm starting to feel better. We had the most beautiful relationship with a good to bad ratio of like 80% great. I'm an anxious attachment style, and she is avoidant. The breakup was her choice, and it was extremely painful for me to go through. We had an amazing first year together. We traveled, spent time with each other's friends and family, and everything was going really good. I'd say the first main issue to come up was when her lease was expiring. I suggested that she moved in with me. At first, she said she would rather us get our own place, not move into my place, since she wouldn't feel like she's at home. You could see a lot of people would feel like that. Not everybody. Some people would be totally fine with it. But this particular woman felt like she would be kind of maybe intruding and that it was more of his place. And some people do feel like that. This became an issue, and we started arguing about it often. I kept trying to get her to see that if she moved in, it would be her place too. I love my house, and it was close to my work, friends, and family. She said it was too far away from her friends and family, but to be honest, it was only another 15 minutes away. I felt like she was just being stubborn. So you can see they're really struggling to see each other's points here, and it's probably going to get progressively worse. This argument was not going away. Her complaints kept getting more and more petty. It was like she kept looking for smaller things to complain about. Finally, one night, she said she wasn't sure she wanted to do it anymore. She was confused about her feelings and where our relationship was going. I panicked. I begged, got upset, freaked out, and overreacted. How many of us have been there? Somebody says they're not sure they want to do it anymore, and it just feels like we are about to be murdered, right? Like a bus is about to come plow over us. It is a horrible feeling. We just feel like dying inside, and the last thing we want to do is allow that relationship, that bond to end. It's very painful to go through it. And especially if you had difficulties in your childhood, attachment issues, you had anxious or avoidant parents that maybe were neglectful or working all the time, didn't give you what you needed, they didn't make you feel safe, then when this happens, it kind of takes you back to that childhood, of that painful place, and we kind of fall apart. She said she needed time to think about her future and where she wanted things to go. And you're like, no, go with me. Our future's together, right? That's what it feels like. She wanted space to think about what she wanted to do. At first, I agreed to friendship because I figured it would allow her to see our connection. Yeah, some people tell you stay friends with an ex. I don't recommend it. I mean, if we're on a call and we're talking about it, it's certainly a possibility. We could discuss it. But overall, in general, I don't recommend it. I figured it would allow her to see our connection. We stayed in contact as friends and would occasionally see each other. But every time we did, all I wanted was to talk about the relationship. And you can imagine how hard that would be. Of course, every one of us would want to talk about the relationship because that's our instinct, right? We want to fix it. We want to repair it. You're sitting there across from them and they're thinking, oh, we're friends now. And you're like, no, I don't want to be friends. I'm only doing this so we can try and work things out. Which is why I say don't be their friend, because you're not being authentic. You're not really being their friend. You're really wanting to be romantic with them. You're settling for less. It just makes the breakup easier for them because they don't really feel like they're losing you, and the consequences aren't as dire if you're their friend. I kept trying to fix the problems, and she completely freaked out on me. She said I was pushing and immature, that I only really cared about what I wanted, that if I really cared about her, we would have gotten a place together. And how do you disagree with it? Because she's got a valid point. If she kept telling him, I want a place together, our own place together, I don't want to move into your place, she's making a valid point. Now, that's not to say that he doesn't have a valid point too, but, I mean, she does have a point here. If you really cared about my feelings and they were that important to you, you would have said, let's get our own place. So you can't argue it, right? It's only going to make it worse. I made a few efforts to reach out to her, but she kept ignoring me. I admit I did drive past her place a few times. I was scared that there would be someone there, but there wasn't. I realized I had to stop because I was scared she'd see my car. And please, don't do that, guys. Do not stalk past their house. I know you get so tempted when you get so overwhelmed by anxiety, but please don't do it. It's an easy mistake to avoid, and it's a big mistake to overcome if you get caught. So think about it. Easy to avoid, but hard to overcome. Look at it that way. She finally called me and said that she was sorry for not replying, but she wasn't sure what to do. She said, please don't think I'm ignoring you, that she still wasn't sure. You see what I mean? She realized, oh, he may think I'm ignoring him. Please, I don't want you to think that. I'm confused. That's a good sign. Okay, that's a really good sign. She said she does think about me a lot and how good things were before the idea of moving in with me. Okay, so you see what happened here? She was getting scared about moving in together. She's afraid, she doesn't know what to do, and so she's not ignoring you because she doesn't care about you. She's overwhelmed by the whole situation, and granted, it would be nicer if she was handling this more maturely and communicating, but sometimes we deal with people in our life that aren't ready and they need more time than we want them to take or need. I asked her if she thought we could fix things, and she said she doesn't have any answers yet. She told me that part of the reason she hadn't replied is because she knew she didn't have any answers yet, and if we talked, I'd push for them. And if you're anxious and you have an anxious attachment style, you know that you would be pushing your ex if you had contact with them, because it's very hard to resist, and it's very easy to try and get answers and push, because I see it in my calls all week long. She did say that she does love me and admitted to looking at my social media every day. You see, one person is feeling like they're being ignored, that this person doesn't care, they don't know how to interpret their behavior anymore, and the other person is confused, they're afraid to reply, they're afraid they're going to be pushed for answers, and so they don't do anything. It's like they're frozen, they're scared, they just don't know what to do yet. And yes, many people in this world get like that. She even said she would start to get scared that when she finally did reach out, that I wouldn't want to talk with her anymore. Okay, here you have it, another dumper saying that they were afraid to reach out, to reply, because they would get rejected. But what often happens is they start to panic, they start to beat themselves up, they start to wonder if they're going to lose you, and then they look for excuses to finally reach out, right? Sometimes they have to make excuses within themselves. That's why they do an indirect direct, right? Because they're scared of rejection. Believe it or not. I know it's confusing because you're like, well, why are they afraid of rejection? They rejected me. That's just what happens over time, is we're dealing with insecure people oftentimes, right? And so insecure people can distort reality and they have a lot of hurt and abandonment issues, so they don't know how to navigate, right? So, you know, a lot of times you're projecting on how you think that they should be, or the appropriate way a person should be in these situations. And maybe there's some truth to it, but a lot of times people just are scared and they're not ready. And that's part of the reason why they're not replying to you yet. I told her that I was sorry for pushing her, and that she was also sorry for how she acted too. I'm letting her do the reaching out. She does seem warmer than the initial breakup, and I feel like it could turn around. What do you think? Okay, so it seems to me we have somebody that had some valid points. She was scared about moving in together. When she brought up the idea of moving in with you, she suggested getting a place together that you guys could get on your own together. Not moving into her place, not moving to your place. You guys get a place together. But because you didn't budge on that, she probably felt like, if you're not willing to concede, then why should I? And then they both just got stuck in where their position was, and it just made her more and more fearful of moving there and doubt him more and more, lose attraction for him more and more. And I think that's why the reasons started to get more and more petty about moving in together. But, you know, you can see that she is opening up little bits here and there to let him know that she's not ignoring you because she doesn't care. It's more like she's just not ready to respond yet. She knows that she's going to have to give you answers. She's confused about things, and she doesn't know what to do yet. And that feels authentic to me from this situation. Like I said, every situation is different, but she was opening up after he did give her some space and time to process things. So I do think that you're going to have to be empathetic towards her when she reaches out and try and understand why it's so important for her to get your own place together. And if you're willing to consider that, then maybe this situation can turn itself around. Now, maybe she's just not ready to move in with you, and that's part of the problem. Maybe she's just still too scared to move in, and so that's why she's using this as an excuse. Like, maybe she would move into that house, but she's just not ready yet. So I think the key is to really just ask some open-ended questions to where she's at, what's going on with her. Is she worried about a potentially serious relationship, moving in together? Is she concerned that, you know, when you move in together, she's going to have to meet more of your needs, or maybe losing some of her identity? Because a lot of people do worry about that. That could be really scary. And so I think just try to be compassionate and try and get an understanding of where she is about on this, and why she was so entrenched in how she felt about it, and then see if you can navigate together. Because if you really want a future with this person, then you're going to have to work through these things. These are some difficult issues that we have in relationships. How many kids do we want to have? Where do we want to live? How do we want to spend our vacations? All kinds of things that we have to ask ourselves and be ready for. And maybe she's just not ready for that yet, and she wasn't even aware of it. You know, maybe she was just kind of shutting down and not knowing what to do yet. So I do think there's a lot of positive things here. And, you know, now that you've given her some time and space, she's shown an ability to open up. Let her do so some more. Don't put pressure on it. And I think you guys have a good chance of turning this around. But keep working on your attachment issues, because they're clearly going to come up in this situation. And if you don't get a hold of those attachment issues and really commit to personal growth, like doing the workbooks 30 minutes a day, doing the creative healing course 30 minutes a day, you're likely going to go back to your old ways and wind up in another breakup. And I know, because I've been doing this for a long time, okay? So if you want to get my help personally, you can do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. You can get my workbooks or my creative healing course there. They are amazing. I promise you, if you commit to them 30 minutes a day, they will change your life. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth, and I will talk with you soon.